hope everyone had a wonderful couple of days so far. We're excited to get started with our first panel of the day, actually, focusing in on how to help older SMBs digitize. And to start us off, I'm going to introduce Jordan, who is moderating. He's the senior copywriter at CloudFest. Jordan.
Thanks, everyone, for coming by. So, digitizing small businesses and medium-sized businesses has the potential to add trillions of dollars to the cloud economy in the coming decade and to accelerate economic recovery, which is something we all want to happen very badly. But the process has been slowed by a few factors, from talent to access to technology and onboarding, and SMBs just not being used to new technology. So this panel, we're going to explore how to overcome those challenges to unlock the vast potential of onboarding small and medium businesses to the cloud economy. So let's welcome our panel. First, coming to us with over 20 years of experience in computing is Claudia Frese. She's the CEO of Strato AG and a member of the executive board of Ionos. She started her career in the startup world before holding a number of management positions, including at companies such as eBay. She is no stranger to the corner office, and she was CEO of MyHammer AG and MyHammer Holding AG. Claudia. Next, we have Paolo Storti, who's the CEO of Zextras, and he's an IT and open source addict since his teenage years. Ever since those days, he was working with the new open source team for IBM. He came up with the idea of applying open source business model to the public administration and then to other specific business cases. So he's always thinking outside the box. He always has his finger on the pulse of this changing market and the changing world. Paolo. Next, we have Pascal Bitterly. He is the head of marketing for Orange Business Services, managing multidisciplinary teams to drive innovation and double-digit growth of the flexible engine cloud infrastructure. He started out in biz and engineering, and he's passionate about open innovation, digital transformation, and of course, cloud computing. Pascal. Good morning. So let's grab a seat and get into it. Digitization has a lot of aspects, almost like the blind sages and the elephant, trying to figure out what it really is. It means different things to different people, both on your side and the customer side. Could you each please start with a sort of elevator pitch for what your companies do in terms of digitizing companies?
I think do I have a mic? I don't.
Yes.
Hi. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a mic, do I? Now I do. Okay, thank you. So Strato has been in the mass hosting market, particularly in Germany, but also across Europe for like 25 years now. And our main audience is really very small businesses, so people under like 10 employees. So we're talking about bakeries and hairdressers, that kind of business. And what we really did was I'd like to say we invented, but maybe we were just early on, mass provisioning of digital services. So like, getting your domain started, getting your first hosting package set up, building websites, and doing that in a very highly automated way for a mass audience at a very large scale. By now, we're over 2 million customers, and really just very cheap. So available, affordable, and very easy to use, which is exactly what these guys need.
Yeah. Well, Mike, yes, perfect. So Zextras is an open source company because, as you said, I'm an open source guy, an old open source guy from the very beginning. So we are actually developing an enterprise collaboration and communication suite for, all those kind of small businesses, but not directly selling to them the product or giving to them the product to be used, but leveraging on infrastructures our hosting provider partners, our telco partners are providing. So at the end of the day, we are the guys behind that are producing pieces of software that our hosting providers and partners are giving to those kind of industries.
I I see. And do the shoes come with it, or is that?
We do have handmade shoes and bags. Nice. Italians.
Nice.
I know.
Cool. And Pascal?
Yes, can you hear? Yes.
Yeah.
We at Orange Business Service, we in fact support companies to build a cloud-based business model to start digitalization. And we have all sizes of companies, from small and medium companies to very large accounts and multinationals. So, and we provide them end-to-end support to start this digitalization. From, of course, the phase of audit for internal infrastructure, then the migration, with some, I would say, very common services like the backup, disaster recovery plan. That's the first step of a company into the cloud. And then when they become more agile with applications, open source, they can automate and they can leverage all the cloud technology to reinvent business model, be disrupted. And they can go up to artificial intelligence to leverage the data, or edge computing as well. And we, on top of this, we can manage all the infrastructure if they want to concentrate on their business and let experts on the cloud do the job for them.
Cool. And so now on to these SMBs. To set the stage, there are about 22.5 million SMBs.
Wow.
In Europe, I know, right? So about 22.5 million SMBs in Europe. 21 million of them have fewer than 10 employees. So do we have a sense of how many SMBs have already made the digital transformation, how many are trying to, and how many are just kind of lagging behind?
Yeah, actually, we were just in our prep talk, we were discussing what we actually mean by digitization. And I think we need to kind of break that down a little bit. And to get to your question, I don't think there's like a hard number on this, but there are pockets of SMBs that are well explored. So one that I can talk about is, for example, the crafts market, which in Germany is about 5 million people in about 1 million businesses, so it's fairly large. And they have a tremendous organization, so they survey their people all the time. And if you look at that data, you would think about 90% of these businesses run a website, and about 100%, probably like 150% use digital communications. Also around like 85% use some sort of directory, like free directories mainly, but also paid. But only 30% use social media. And about 25% use the cloud. So I think there's different waves of digitization, like the simple things have taken place and people have adopted, and you know, that's already available. But there's also huge potential when it comes to these more advanced technologies, anything around productivity, anything around internal organization, but also like advanced storage, data sharing, that type of thing. So that's kind of how I would frame this in general.
And do you see specific SMB verticals which are particularly slow in adopting cloud services?
Well, what we observe at Orange is that there are some vertical like education, healthcare. We noted as well the construction or the agriculture, and what we see that they have less profitability volatility, and they are linked to also governmental rules. So and they have less research into business and to disruption. So they will be more conservative in their IT management. But of course, what we explain to them is that they can use the cloud to disrupt, and for a government to offer more services to more users, or for agriculture to exchange their data so that they can maybe exchange best practices, or have climate surveys so that they can manage more their planning, in fact.
And what have you been finding?
Well, I would say that the main point I'm seeing is that they're scared mainly because offer is fragmented, right, and sometimes they don't have the knowledge to understand what they actually need. So for solving this issue, I would say it's not just about technology. I would say information, so marketing initiatives, or events, let them understand what we have for, enriching their, capabilities. But the main point is fragmentation about the offer. So some of those guys, I don't want to anticipate other points, but some of those guys, they're trusting companies, big ones, mainly, in my opinion, because they have a unique offer. They can offer everything under a single contract, under a single name, with a kind of warranty about integrations. That's another point I think we need to stress.
Yeah, there's almost like an education gap. If you take a layperson and put them in the exhibition hall, they would look at all the what is this?
Correct.
And then to let people know how they can digitize their businesses further, first they have to know what, as we've been saying, what that even means.
Yes, and I could add to that, it's sure that there is need for some skills to go into the cloud, especially when you look at the open source. But that's what we do at Orange. We support them with training and as well migration, and also we can manage some stuff for them. So that's an important point, and to cover the skills. And the other one is you were talking about security or to feel safe. It's true that lots of companies, they prefer to keep their database, their application on-prem because they feel they are secured. Their data, they are in this office. So now what we are explaining is that in the cloud, we have a huge security system with cyber security, so they are more safe. It's like when you save your money in your kitchen or in a bank. We are professional on security, so we educate a lot on this one. And the other blocking point is maybe the transition. They are small businesses on their day-to-day life, looking for customers and optimization, so they don't necessarily have the time to change, to make the transition. So we are here to help on that and to control their cost so that they can feel safe. And this is what we have launched a Cloud Accelerator program with some free services to help them onboard quickly and without too much effort and cost.
Nice. And going into this education into trust leads me to a question for Claudia. You've been a decision maker. You were a decision maker at eBay back in the day when people were not used to conducting their lives online in the same way. The idea of doing an auction like with strangers. You want me to put my credit card on a web browser? Are you nuts? And so I'm wondering, so you're used to coming up in that time when there's that trust gap. So getting to my actual question, are you finding a similar trust gap now with SMBs trying to get them to embrace cloud services?
Yeah, sure. I mean, back in the day, this is like 20 years ago, but the building trust was, I think, one of the cornerstones of really getting, and this at the time it was really commerce, like basic transaction, buying, selling stuff. Getting that off the ground and scaling was about building trust. But trust at the time was about different things. This was about fraud and counterfeits and about just, payment problems and that kind of thing. I think we've solved most of that in the meantime, although some people are still concerned, but not the younger people, I'd say. In our industry, I think the trust problem is a little different. And I think there's two main aspects to it, really. One is the one that Pascal was alluding to. He was saying, this is about data security, really. And this is maybe particularly German, but I think maybe European also, is people are really concerned about privacy and data security. And at Strato, because also we're a German company, but we've been taking that quite seriously from the get-go. And we only store our servers in Germany, and it's really at the heart of the company to think about data protection. And that is actually a really good selling point, I must say. It's something we always talk about because people care. And the fact that people care points me to there's a serious concern about this. Now, that is, of course, hindering innovation. But it's a noteworthy cause. The other factor that I think is really important is confusion. And confusion and trust kind of go together. And this is also what Paolo was saying. There's so many options, and technology is not at the heart of the people we're talking about. They are having a day job. And then after 6, and they've already done a full day of work, they come home and they have to figure this stuff out. And they get online and try to figure it out. And it's really difficult. We all talk about ease of use and how our products are so easy. They're not. They're complex. They're fragmented. And people have to work hard to figure that out. And I think from that confusion also stems a trust problem, because if I don't understand something, I don't like it. And the one data point I really like around this is if you look at cloud adoption, one thing we see is the younger the people are, the higher the adoption. And this is, I think, this is talking to this point, because for the older people, this is really difficult. And that leads them to not trust the system.
Mm-hmm. It's alien to some people, and then when you do try to go online to answer your own questions, it's like, how do you know which sources to trust for those answers?
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like a vicious cycle.
Totally.
Yeah. And I have a question for Paolo about email. Why do you think so many SMBs still use like Gmail or Outlook branded email for their official or work communications?
It's the same answer. I mean, I'm just to recap a couple of points we already covered, but I mean, because it's complex, and because you need to trust someone, it's way easier to trust big names, because they do have marketing, they do have all those colors and stuff, so they're pretty. You can trust them, even though you have no idea what you're buying from them. And the second point is, because it's easier. I mean, if you're going to Microsoft or Google, you're buying Google or Microsoft, and they're going to give you what they think you need, and because you trust them, you think what they think you need is what you need. So once again, it's our job to really bring those people to understand what their really needs are, and to help them to find other solutions that can also guarantee that protection, that serenity, GDPR compliance, a bunch of different stuff that is, I mean, there is a growing trend in privacy, not only in Europe, all around the world. Gartner is saying we are going to move from 24 to 80% about countries that are considering laws about that protection. So that's a trend, but people is not prepared, and they're just trusting colors.
In a sense, like, why do I want to go to a cloud service email? I have Gmail. Like, well, that is a cloud service.
It's fancy.
But yeah, but no, it's not a cloud service. It's Outlook. Like, but yeah, maybe it's almost skeuomorphic. Like when you take something that's an old technology, but you reskin it to harken back to those old days. So many people remember Outlook when it was just on their desktop driving their email, but now it's a cloud service, but people just don't think of it like that. Speaking of perceptions, for Pascal, you with your Orange Business Services, you host worldwide. What are the different sort of uptake and usage dynamics that you see in these regional markets, and how does that affect how you market to them?
Yes, sure. We sell around to almost all continents, and what we could observe is different trends, of course. And if I can speak about a very dynamic market coming from Southeast Asia, they're in some vertical like finance or technology, telecommunication and media, and they are having an expansion into their commercial objective into Europe, and so they are naturally looking for a cloud provider. And there is, as you said, Paolo, the question of trust. And since they are addressing their technologies and then service to European customers, they are looking for a partner for, I would say, respecting the data privacy, the GDPR, or having, I would say, into the end, the respect of the data of the people. And so that's what they are looking for us. And they are really, really, I would say, precise and conscious about this respect because they estimate that it has a value for their customers. And the second thing that we observe is that they do rapid decision because they are in the software, they are in the new technology, so there's also new generations. They are born into it, so they make rapid decision. They look for cost, of course, but also all kind of services, automation, DevOps, and so they, when they are sure that the cloud provider can fulfill this, they go. If we observe now Africa or South America, of course there are lots of vertical like agriculture or also European companies having factories in the industry or commercial branches of retail. So of course they want a single cloud provider for all the regions is what we can offer. And well, that's of course we know more the European ones, but usually there is one main point is the trust and the security that all are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And now I got to ask the question that you're all probably so sick of answering, and that is, how have your cloud service offerings changed from pre-pandemic until now? And I guess the follow-up would be, does that affect a change of tone in your marketing?
Well, it's true that what we could see with the COVID is that it's quite completely unforeseen, unpredicted, and so companies, they all had to react to this something unknown. So it's true that they have, with the teleworking, to reinvent their IT system in a very, very quickly manner. So we help them during nights and weekends to establish fleet of virtual desktops so that application can be accessible, emails, but also access to databases, to SAP, everything from home. And then they started progressively to keep some teleworking on some remote working organization. So we have launched a couple of new services since that time, more resource computing, more network facilities, especially securized with private networks, and as well possibilities for DevOps, for developer to develop easily on several cloud and more rapidly with a continuous integration and development CI/CD method. So that's the trend we observe, and maybe an acceleration on the go to cloud for companies which were more in the classical way of organization on-premise.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. For the very small businesses, I mean, there was essentially the same push, but I think it was mainly around e-commerce, where if you had a store and it had to close, you know, you either built an online shop or you died. Same for restaurants with deliveries, etc. So we did see quite a wave of new customers flooding in, starting in the spring of 20 and then also in last Q1. And so Q1 of 21 was super strong. And it, like every wave, there's a counter wave, right? So I think some of this was also sort of pulled in demand, stuff that would have happened anyway, but people sort of got a kick in the butt and then they got going. So we definitely did see that. I don't think that there has been, a particular change in the kind of services people need. It's just that they actually had to kind of grab the opportunity, and they finally had time too.
Yeah.
Also because a lot of people couldn't work. So that's sort of what we observed. And I mean, in terms of marketing, because you were saying that we changed our tone. Well, yes, we did, but that was not solely because of the pandemic. It was more like something we wanted to do anyway, particularly addressing this target group. I don't know that. This was particularly in a mass market, a particular marketing challenge, except the competition increased quite a bit because everybody would seize this opportunity, and we did see that. But other than that, I think it was just faster, shorter term, more of the same.
Yeah. And Paolo?
You know, I would cover more the demand part.
All right.
So I'm seeing a huge difference in demand from the pre-pandemic to the pandemic era, and I guess we will see something different in the post-pandemic era. So pre-pandemic, few people around the world, except Americans, were used to smart working, remote working, work from home. So there was a demand limited to specific, kind of jobs, like in IT. While during the pandemic, demand changed, every single one without any kind of knowledge was looking for something to help them to continue to work from home, for their employees to continue to work, to continue to exist. So during pandemic, I think it was just a matter of finding something without any evaluation, without any deep knowledge about the solution. Because of that, we are seeing a lot of those users are actually using tools just because of their fancy name once again. So for example, Zoom. I do love Zoom, but every single one was using Zoom without having an idea about the options to Zoom. Just because everyone was using Zoom, all the others were using Zoom.
Yeah.
And that's it. And Zoom happened. You can see the stocks for Zoom. That was huge. Post-pandemic, we will continue this kind of smart working, work from home. We are changing habits. But we are going to see a much deeper understanding about those tools, and I think the way demand will ask for those tools will change a lot. It's not just about give me something I need, I want to choose. I do want data protection, data sovereignty, I want a company I can trust, maybe my country, that know my specific vertical. So that's the change I would say will happen in demand.
Yeah, like Claudia was saying, it was, in spring of 2020, it was, as she said, adapt or die. And now business owners have more time to strategize their rollouts, to make better decisions for themselves, like better decisions for their employees' well-being and that sort of thing. And it gives companies, I would think, a chance to flex their empathy as well as their educating skills and really figure out what people need. And what is a better way, like thinking in terms of buffet or tapas, or what's a better way to get your target market's attention? Do you go for advertising integrated full solutions or more standalone services?
Yeah, so funny enough, Paolo was alluding to this already a couple of times, and I'm a super strong advertiser in terms of branding. I think that the power of brand is to build trust. So it's not just a color, it's also to get the things you stand for transported in an easy way for people to understand. And the reason why people flock to Zoom is because they get recommended, right? That's a super powerful way of finding a tool, is I don't even have to search for it, right? Somebody says, oh, look, that one. Right? That's the power of brands. So yeah, definitely. I think for us, building the brand and filling that brand with the kind of offer that we want to put forward to people is key, and we have been investing in that for like 10 years. We harvest some of that now because it gives us let's say, the economic leverage to invest also in our product offering and to build out that ecosystem that we really want to be offering. And it's no longer around the simple solutions, as I've said, like everybody has a website, everybody has a domain, everybody has that. So I think the growth in that niche of the market is there, but it's not huge. But as we were saying, people look for these integrated solutions. And we actually had talk about this yesterday as well. I think in our ecosystem, there are so many interesting, like Zestras, right? There's so many interesting software solutions that you can integrate into a compelling offering for the consumer or the customer, in this case, a business customer, to get and to start with and then expand as they grow. So it's also about scalability, but it's a lot about ease of use and integration. And I think this is going to be the challenge also for us moving forward in the coming years, is to build these basically open APIs to integrate these solutions and then develop the value proposition that we actually want to convey to the customer.
And
Yes.
oh,
Yeah,
please.
on that one, yes.
And Orange,
We're
I mean,
talking about integration.
what a brand, right?
and services working together. And for us at Orange Business Services, we are built a flexible engine cloud based on this interoperability with OpenStack, the open source community for cloud, and all services of compute, storage, databases, and all the platform of big data. They are all based on very well-known open source, and we are part of that foundation. So all these bricks have to be connected so that they can work together. You launch a container of developments, it's connected to a database, to storage, and everything should be available by API. Because lots of developers and companies are using API to monitor their cloud infrastructure. So every works together, and we have built more than 70 services. And the fact that they are integrated, you can also manage the logs, the access, the security, and they are all connected. So it makes the management much easier. So of course our answer is for integration. But for some companies that are not using the full set of services, when they, for example, they just need to upload their data for archive or for backup or disaster recovery or even for workspace, they can choose just a piece of service and then don't look at the rest. And they are easy accessible that like any software as a service for them. Huh? So it's both, but more integration, if I can say.
I see.
I would like to add a point about, marketing, trust, and brand. I am agree. The main point is what Google and other American company did was creating a brand for gaining trust instead of creating trust on product, company, and procedures and using a brand to represent that.
Agreed.
What we need to do is, first of all, we are all saying the same, cooperate, open standard, API. Yesterday, pre-pandemic, we were a lot of different companies in different countries fighting together on little pieces, technical stuff, and a lot of small customers in those countries were confused because we were just speaking about technology. Mm-hmm. Not all of us, the vast majority of us, we were speaking about technology while Google was giving an idea, was giving, colors, was giving a different approach to this kind of technology because technology is complex. So building a brand, building trust, and giving an idea to those customers that this complexity is something we can handle for them. They can just use something they need in an easy way without any kind of bit or byte or whatever is behind is not on them. That's the way cloud will be, disruptive to small businesses, to people without deep knowledge in technology, to old people. Let's imagine a company, a truck driver company. They do have 50 employees, whatever. They're great in their job. They're truck drivers. Mm-hmm. It's not their job to understand our technology.
Yeah, great.
And back to those 21 million S's, the small businesses of like 9 or fewer employees, it's sort of a double-edged opportunity. They're the biggest market in terms of the number of businesses, but they have probably a smaller potential value for monthly recurring revenue. So how do you decide where to put your marketing efforts to kind of make the juice worth the squeeze?
Well, look, I think much of this has already been talked about, but if you have an ARPU of, say, 10 or 15 or so, it's you have to make that work at scale. And that essentially is not so different from a consumer business. But this is, and Strato made that We've done that for like 15 years or so. So it's really our DNA. It's all about automation. It's all about zero customization. So the standard products. And I love what you were saying. You know, the complexity is in the background, the ease of use towards the customer, and the just, you know, I'm always saying that the best product is the product you don't even think about. You just use it, right? You get in front of it, you go like click, 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 and it just works.
Yeah.
That's what we want to build and offer. And then the way we offer it is really digital. Is really through performance marketing, brand building, and self-service, because you can't really invest a ton of sales dollars on something that in the end costs you $3 a month. That doesn't work economically.
Right.
But I mean, for us, I'd say we spent a lot of time on this business building, optimization, and also brand building, and it's worth squeezing that juice. So it's a viable business once you have it, and it's hard to get into, which is nice. I think there's a moat there, a competitive moat, once you've reached that sort of scale.
I see.
Yeah.
So yes, we completely align with you, Claudia. It's if we estimate that the cloud is a level of growth, business growth for these companies, it has to be simple, it has to be automatized and easy access. And at Orange, we believe that the customer journey has to be really easy. And of course, for all these companies, there are lots of numbers, and we cannot have a phone call or a conversation with each of them. So we invest a lot in a digital customer journey. And we have established a free trial, like maybe you've done that, so that they can test, and then they start using it, and it's all about advertising on webinars, on FAQ, on white paper, so that they progressively monitor and their own infrastructure. And for some of them, we create as well some services that the Cloud Accelerator program, where we can help them from time to time when they need to onboard on the cloud. That's so automation, self-service, and also some customized approach for some of them who wants to be supported. And we have the possibility to do that for small businesses, also to large companies, in fact.
Well, so I will bring your automatization and zero customization, and I will try to bring another points about that, because from my point of view of being, a technical provider to, hosting service company, there's few other points. First one is having the chance to be able to have a huge chance of customization without customization, like having a lot of configurability.
Configuration.
And a lot of integration between different services without having to design to produce those kind of customization for customer, because we don't have money or budget for such kind of job. So we need to create, everything has to be, auto magic, just happening. Second point, TCO. We need to create and find a way to create technology, or to use technology, or to find technology that are able to help to reduce costs. Costs are not only cost for licenses, cost for product. There's a cost for handling a solution. There's a cost for hosting a solution, compute power, system usage, storage. I would say storage today is, one of the main costs for those kind of services. And being an email and collaboration, our users, technically speaking, they're always using more and more space. 10 years ago, 1 gigabyte was more than enough for everyone. Today, people is asking for 50, 75, and storage is expensive. So finding a way to reduce TCO around the solution we are giving, it's a good way to have an interesting price point, because we also need to compete on the price point. Because all those American companies, they're giving a lot of stuff for few money, and without reducing margins too much, because we need to be healthy company. We need margin for doing that. So all those strategies are also for maintaining margins, reducing TCO, giving something interesting for a good price point, and gaining trust on new brands.
Yeah.
It's all deeply interrelated, isn't it?
It is.
Like trust, brand, ease of use, education, empathy. It's like, if you get all those, then,
It's an open API system.
yeah.
Ideally, yeah.
Do Claudia and Paolo and Pascal, do you have any closing thoughts for the crowd before we wrap up?
You go first. What do you think about this one?
So, yes, so the question we discussed is how to bring people and companies going to the cloud. And per that discussion, what I really retain and remember is the interoperability of and the choice of and the richness of innovation that we offer to the market. As you said, Paolo, we expect that customer will not take only one service of one provider because that provider tells it that's the best. Customer has really to benchmark all the innovation they have as a possibility, and the tools, if they are operable, then you can use from one to the other one, and you can combine the tools, and that's maybe one of the most richness of the cloud services, which are interoperable and can be connected by API. That's and a promise for small and medium businesses to really leverage all these technologies to their advantage.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of, and you've summed it up perfectly already, Jordan, a lot of things come together, that's also from the discussions we had yesterday and the day before. To me, this is really about, there is a challenge in the European ecosystem where we have very large, very well-financed American companies competing with ourselves increasingly. And our market is fragmented, but our customers are also fragmented. And that's a chance as well, because they are not so easy to cater for in a sort of very standardized way. And I think, as I said before, that the solution must be that we build this open ecosystem, and we also base ourselves or our products on the open standards. We were talking a lot about WordPress yesterday. That's exactly the right way to go, and I think we're all kind of working on that in some way or other. So this to me is also thinking about a broader picture of how we want to evolve our European digital economy moving forward, and build something that is both accessible and understandable and compelling, but also competitive.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I mean, I will just add a point about the definition of cloud. Everybody is referring to cloud. But I mean, cloud is not a thing. It's just a general name for a bunch of different kind of companies and services. So the main point, speaking about culture for users, is to better understand what cloud means, and understanding that there's no such thing as a cloud service. There's many different cloud services, many different cloud providers, software as a service providers. At the end of the day, you need to choose the company because of the trust you may have for the company, and the service because the usage, because of the features you want to have with that service. Sometimes I'm seeing those kind of SMB without, I mean, a deeper knowledge about cloud, just referring about cloud. Like every single cloud service, just because it's called cloud, is equal to other.
Yeah.
So that's another interesting point for spreading a little bit of knowledge, for better helping those guys understanding why X cloud to Epsilon cloud to whatever S cloud is having different, I mean, values and different outcomes for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword of a metaphor like the cloud, as it's easy to kind of grasp right away, but then when you dig into what it actually means for you as the end user, the business owner, gets to be a much more complicated story.
Yeah.
And then we're back to education and trust. So it looks like we are out of time. Thank you all so much for sharing your expertise with the crowd today. Please give it up for Claudia, Paolo, and Pascal.